G'day everyone and welcome to the catch-up. No, I'm not Mason Cox, obviously, but we will be crossing to Mason shortly. As we all know, he's in the United States of America, so it's going to be interesting. Now, the pressure's on me to get this right. Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, shut up, Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. So get on there, check it out, subscribe to all of them. Live crossing now via the power of the internet to the one, the only 6 foot, 11 and a half. We'll give him that extra half an inch. Mason Cox. How's it going, Mason?
Oh my gosh. Look, how about the intro from him? Hey, he's got it. All 7 platforms. You're a bit nervous. There. You're a bit shaky, but hey, you got through it, and that's the important thing, brother.
I feel like an absolute beetroot. My head is about to explode.
Look, man, you know, it's practice makes perfect. You know, sometimes a lot of people think these things are easy. They're easy, you know, just to intro into a podcast. But, you know, it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of effort, it takes a lot of looking in the mirror and practice to yourself. So, well done, Brayden. I must say it was a great intro. And I'm actually really stoked for this podcast. There's a lot of stuff we're going to cover. I know I'm in a different country, magically kind of connecting through the internet, but there's a lot of stuff going on in the world at the moment. And we got a lot of stuff to cover, man. A lot of stuff to cover.
So where are you? Like nestled between these two picture frames? What's going on?
I am in Los Angeles. I'm actually in Ontario, California, which is just outside of Los Angeles. So I'm at the USAFL national tournament. So there's an AFL league here in the US, and I'm here as a representative, as the AFL representative, I guess, one of the AFL representatives over here to help grow the league, essentially. So I've gone to the last 4 or 5, I want to say, and I've always been a representative here and just enjoy it. And it's kind of a bit of a family out here, and it's always perfect timing in the off season. So this is one of the first stops on my whole tour de America while I am back in the off season in the States.
You've been to so many that you would probably be one of the leading experts in US AFL knowledge, history, the whole show.
I'm a bit nervous. I don't want to be quizzed on it, but I feel like I know a decent amount. There's people, it's been 25 years. So this year's the 25th anniversary, which is a big deal. So they've had a gala, had a big celebration, everything else. And it's kind of cool. I mean, 25 years of essentially creating a league out of nothing. It's been awesome to hear some of these great stories from people that were here since the very beginning and just had this crazy idea. I was like Australians in America of going, hey, let's randomly get some people together. Let's go have a kick and let's see if we can create a league in a country half a world away from this, you know, place that the sport is actually played in. So credit to them, man. They've come a long way. And it's a big deal every year. There's 41 teams, I think, and there's over 1,000 people playing. This weekend, it's they rent out this whole complex, man. It's a great experience, and a lot of ex-AFL players and people in the media and stuff have come through over the years and been able to experience it, and everyone always has a really good time. So it's it's a great experience. So if anyone's listening from America, you know, go find a local team. You'll have it in your city. Go join, go play a bit of footy and have a kick, and maybe we'll see you here at the Nationals next year.
Surely part of it is the fact that we take our sport over there, so the Australians can be the best. Maybe they weren't the best when they were back here in Australia. They're, you know, country pluggers or they're VFL battlers or whatever. Take it over there. You're Chris Judd. You're Gary Ablett Jr. You're the Mason Cox of the league once you take it over to the USAFL.
The fact that you just looped me in the same category as Chris Judd and Gary Ablett Jr. is just ridiculous beyond belief, Brayden. I appreciate the compliment. I think both of them are probably half my size. So if you stack one on the other, you might get my height. But I think they're carrying a lot more skills than I ever will. So there is players that come over here that are from like Australia that have moved over to the US and are playing in this league. Man, they're absolutely killing it. So you got these guys that might have played VFL or played, you know, SANFL or something like that, you know, in their day, and they come over here and they're playing with Americans, essentially teaching Americans how to kick a football and how to handball and everything else. And the level of standard for, you know, half these guys being guys and girls, so it's men's and women's. For them, half of them have never even played footy. They're just essentially Americans that just got into it randomly. And it's pretty awesome to have this many people kind of involved and have it come this far.
I like what you did there. So you're saying Chris Judd and Gary Ablett combined makes you?
Between the three of us, we've probably got 7 Brownlows, probably kicked 1,000 goals and played about 700 games. So yeah, I mean, I'm not sitting here saying one's better than the other. You know, it's a team effort, but I'm just saying the three of us have quite a resume.
Same. It's the same. But I don't know if you've heard And I don't know if you need to check in on your apartment while you're over there, but Australia has basically ceased to exist since you left. We're under the ocean. We're having a little bit of trouble with the rain and the water and the flooding. And I don't know if you've heard, if it's made it over there to the States, but Rochi, my birth town, it's gone. It's gone.
Man.
It's underwater. It's everyone's been evacuated. Yeah, it's the Atlantis of Victoria, and Echuca is well on its way. Just a little update from back here. We're struggling. So
I've heard, and I think that York Street Bridge in Melbourne, I've heard that's back underwater, which it does every time it even sprinkles. So
yeah.
I think even whenever it spits a little bit of rain, that thing's flooding. But in all honesty, man, it's crazy. Like I being in a different country, you don't like probably hear the news as much, but I've seen how nuts it's been over there since I left, man. And I want to wish all the best to those small towns, because we've said on this podcast before, we're big fans of Rochi, and we hope anyone that's up there listening, which is there's only 5 people in town, so max 5 people. Hopefully your friends, family, everything are okay, and you've evacuated, done the right thing. And hopefully you can come back to something at home.
It's crazy times. It's crazy times.
Well, anyway, speaking about getting the community together and everything else, now there's a man called Ned Brockman. This guy has done something phenomenal. Now, I don't know if you've been following him. I'm not sure who out there has known about this, but this man has crossed country. And I don't mean cross country in a car or a bike or a push bike or anything like that. This man has ran across country. He's ran from Perth all the way to Sydney. He's just finished up a few days ago, and he's raised like $1.5 million, I think, at the moment for Mobilize, which is an amazing charity out there. And this man is just an outland. I know a lot of people, this has been in the media in Sydney and stuff like that, but I'm not sure if it's made it to Melbourne. But this man, Ned, has done some phenomenal stuff. And he's done over like a marathon a day. He's almost like done 100 kilometers a day, which is just insane to think, for like 40 odd days. So over a month doing a marathon a day. This man is an absolute jet. He's absolutely killed it, and he's made it all the way to Bondi, and he's finished this race. And it's so cool to see someone like this raise that kind of money for an important charity nonetheless, but also do this amazing human feat. And I think he ran the second fastest person to ever run cross country in Australia, and he's an absolute jet. He's a young man. He's like in his 20s, early 20s, and it's a credit to him. It's been awesome following his journey from day one. He's started all the way out in Cottesloe, I want to say, and he's finished in Bondi. And this man is just insane. I can't imagine some of the stuff he's put his body through just to be able to get through that. I mean, seriously, he's gone ran through the Nullarbor. How do you say it?
Nullarbor.
It's not good by me. I should know that. But no, he's done something amazing, man. And to do like 100 Ks a day, I cannot even fathom like the pain and exertion your body would be going through to have to be able to do that in a whole like 40 days straight.
I doubt my car could do 100 Ks a day for a month.
I've seen your car. I don't think it could either. I don't think that thing's making it across country unless it's getting towed.
You get your GPS data. How many Ks would you say you would run in a game? As a ruckman, you got to get around. You got to do a lot of Ks. How many Ks?
Yeah, not as much as the small fellas, but I'd be running like probably 12 Ks a game.
How cooked are you after you've run 12K? And could you imagine doing that another 10 times in the same day?
No chance. I don't even think I could walk 100 Ks a day. Like, that is absurd. Like, if you were to sit there and say, like, Mason, walk 100 Ks, like, I would probably go nuts. Like, I don't know what he's listening to. Hopefully he's listening to the Mason Cox show, because there's a lot of entertainment in that. But I just can't imagine what he's been doing and what's going through his head on a daily basis, running 100 Ks and your body just being absolutely yelling at you with pain. It would just be an absolute insanity. So, yeah, credit to him. It's been an awesome accomplishment. It's something awesome that I've been able to like kind of, follow him on socials and everything else. He's got a whole crew and a van and everything following him around with physio and all that. And it's a massive feat in just human history, I think. But also, he's an amazing dude that's doing some amazing work too, which we love.
That's a very good point, because the demons crawl into my head when I go for a 5K. I hear all kinds of stuff up here that's like, you can't do it. Just stop, mate. Just be fat. Just embrace it. There's like, just
embrace it. Dad bods are in.
100%.
Oh,
so,
God.
Well, he's traveled across Australia from side to side. Tell us about this America trip before we get too far into the podcast. Outside of footy, you're doing a lot for the community with the USAFL, but how about just the trip in general? What are your plans? What do you plan on doing while you're over there?
Man, I'm a bit of a loose unit, so I don't like to plan too far ahead. I literally don't even know my plans. I've got a loose plan for about a week ahead of me. I'll be here, and so I'm going to the Monday night football game, or I would have just been to the Monday night football game. Sorry, and I'm essentially going to go to Oakley, do that. So Oakley headquarters is going to have me because everyone knows I wear these glasses nowadays, and they're going to have what I'm wearing in games and see if there's anything they can do there, which would be pretty cool. And then I'll fly over to Austin, Texas. I'll go to the F1, meet up with some friends there, which would be a great time down in Austin. And then from there, I'll fly to Mexico. Going to do a little R&R in Mexico, a little zen out in Mexico. And then from there, it's a bit open-ended. I'm not really 100% sure. I'll go back to Dallas at some point, do Thanksgiving with the family. And then I've got about a week in lieu. I might go up to New York. I've got some friends up there. They're living up there. Pretty cool to see. And and then I'll head back to Australia, and I'm actually going to go up to the Northern Territory and go up to a place called Groot Island. It's off the east coast off East Arnhem Land, and I'm going to go do a little bit of a fishing trip and a bit of community work up there in the Indigenous community. So trying to put all that together at the moment with AFL Cape York House and the polyfunction. So a few things along that to do some community stuff along the way.
You're going to get back to preseason, and it's going to feel like a rest. It's going to be like, oh, thank God I'm into preseason training. I can finally have a break.
Finally have a schedule again. Finally, I can just know what I'm doing every single day for the next 3 months of my life. And then we get into season, which will last for another 6 months.
What I do want to see, though, is when you do Thanksgiving, I want to see what you cook. Because I don't think a lot of our listeners would experience a Thanksgiving in the States. Like, is it turkey? Obviously, you got to do, and then what? What's on top of that?
Oh, there's the classics, man. So you got turkey, cranberry sauce. Obviously, the pumpkin pie is a massive thing. And then you'll have mashed potatoes, gravy. Those are kind of like the main staples. Now, we have that, but then I've also got, so I'll have my Thanksgiving with my family here in America. And then I'll also have a Friendsgiving, which is like a Thanksgiving with friends back in Australia, whenever, like the first weekend before we start training again. Which is probably not the best thing in the world to be smashing a ton of food and just becoming a fat piece of shit right before you start training. But, you got to stick to traditions. So we'll do that. And then essentially I've got a lot of friends from all over the world that kind of have come into Melbourne and stuff, and each one of them brings something. So I've got a friend from Sweden. He brings Swedish meatballs. Is that part of Thanksgiving dinner? Usually no, but we let him do it. You know why? Because he doesn't do Thanksgiving in Sweden. So we kind of make it our own, which is good fun. But so I'll have 2 Thanksgivings this year, and then we'll be back into training to hopefully run all that off.
What's the Australian Thanksgiving meat? Like, what meat could we provide?
Ooh, I feel like kangaroo's the easy one, right? Maybe just do one of the kangaroos. Like, I think they bury it in the ground, like the kangaroo tail, and they do like a whole coals underground. Like, oh man, that actually sounds pretty good. I don't know. It's kind of weird to be like, people are like, oh my gosh, you can get kangaroo at a local supermarket in Australia. You kill kangaroos. I was like, guys, kangaroos are like deers back in Australia. I don't think you understand. Like, sometimes they're a pest on the road. And they're like, but they're cute and cuddly like koalas. And I'm like, it's not really like that.
It would be way worse if we were killing and eating koalas. They're so cute. They're too cute.
Before we move on, I just want to say this because a lot of people don't know this.
What are you going to say?
Chlamydia is the number 1 killer of koalas, Brayden.
Oh, so is that why we're not eating them? Because we don't want to get... Can you get chlamydia if you eat an animal that's got chlamydia? Have we got to fact check this?
I mean, I think we should maybe refrain from that after COVID from a bat. So maybe that's, I don't know if there's kind of crossover there, but I think we've maybe learned our lesson as a world to not screw with certain animals. I think koala's probably up there.
Now we're jumping straight into hot takes, and you've got one here. You've put it to the top of the list, so I imagine it must be pretty near and dear to your heart.
Very important, and this is going to upset a lot of families because, as everyone knows, I'm sure everyone's played this game. It is a very, very popular game worldwide. It is called Uno. Now, Uno, the card game, as everyone is understanding, of the different things that happen in Uno. You can have a reverse, you can have a skip, you can have a draw 4, you can have a draw 2, right? Well, Uno's come out recently, and I'm a bit. Hey, this is a hot take. I'm a bit livid on this, Brayden. I'm not gonna lie, because this is a big thing in our household, because you get, let's set the scene. Okay. You're playing Uno, right? Yeah. You're sitting there and you got this asshole to your left, and this guy's got you. He's dogged you like 4 times, right? He's got the draw 4. He's chosen the wrong color every time. He's just been a pain in the ass all game long, right?
Yeah.
And this guy goes up, right? And let's say that the person before him, puts down the draw 2, and you've gone, oh yes, the guy before me has to draw 2, right? Well, this dickhead, as as they do, he goes and lays down a draw 2 on top of a draw 2, which makes it a draw 4, and you're stuck there drawing double the amount of cards, and you're like, I hate this game. I don't want to be a part of it, right? You've got 20 cards in your hand. You're going, literally, I've got the pick of the bunch.
Yeah.
Well, Uno has come out, and they've actually corrected this rule. Now, Uno doesn't really come with directions. I feel like it's a bit ad hoc. Everyone's got their own kind of rules and regulations, but Uno has changed the rule where you can't put down a draw 2 on top of another draw 2 to make it draw 4. So now it's just draw 2, the next person draws 2. So you can't go like draw 2, next person goes draw 2, you go draw 4, and then the next person puts another draw 2, the next person gets draw 6, and then you get another person that's like draw 2, and it's like the next person got to draw 8 cards, and you go from 1 in Uno to like 9 cards, and then you're sitting there screaming at the people next to you or your family at Thanksgiving dinner because you're so pissed off at them for treating you like absolute dog shit. It's just so frustrating. But anyway, so not that I have any connection to this. I'm not passionate about this whatsoever. It's never happened to me. But anyway, yes. So Uno has changed the rules or clarified the rule per se, probably more than anything, because they just let everyone run with the rules. No one really had any rules that came in the box. But apparently now the draw 2 cannot be put on a draw 2 to make it a draw 4.
Sometimes life's not fair. Sometimes you get piled up with draw 2s and you get slammed into the dirt. But you pick yourself up and you dust yourself off. But now we don't have to learn how to be resilient because they just changed the rules. So we don't hurt someone's feelings. I'm more on participation levels. Yeah, I'm more on slam them down.
Create some feuds in the family. Yeah. Make people hate each other.
Drill Auntie Jude with like 7 draw 2s in a row. I don't like stuff her. If she's not ready to play, don't come to the table. That's what I reckon.
That's exactly. Hey, you step in this arena, you got to be ready to play.
100%. Like them's the breaks. That's what happens. I don't get it.
Hey, that's where I learned resilience as a child. Uno.
Out of Monopoly, we'll say, Uno. And I'm going to put it out there. I don't know if you got like a crazier game or Risk. Remember Risk? Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I had 2 housemates and one ended up moving out because this I don't know if I've told it on the podcast. So Risk is essentially your countries and you're at war and it's like it plays out that way. But one of my housemates let another housemate play on. He said, I take pity on you. Instead of wiping you out, I'm going to just let you play on. I'll take you down to the bare minimum and then you can still feel like you're part of the game. Anyway, the other housemate ended up coming back and winning the whole thing. And then that housemate flipped the table and he's like, you should have been gone in the first place. I let you stay in. And it was like this. It was like a war in the household.
I've flipped a few tables in Risk, and I feel like any of the listeners out there that have played Risk, they've experienced it because whether you're on the winning end or the losing end, someone's flipping the thing. And it's not the thing is too. It's not just like a few pieces. And anyone that's played Risk knows this. There is 1,000 pieces to this game. So whenever you flip the actual board, it scatters into a million different areas in the house, and like 3 weeks later, you're pulling soldiers out of the closet going, how the hell did you end up in here? And it's just obnoxious. Like I've personally flipped a few of those in my day. Don't get me wrong. I have been that guy. I'm a bit competitive. I don't know if you know that, Brayden. But I feel like in the grand scheme of that, he probably let him keep Australia, the little continent on the corner that it's very hard to get to the rest of the continents, as we all know, in the game of Risk. And he probably let him do that. And then Australia came back.
We're battlers. You can't count us out.
Battlers and prisoners. It's good.
All right, I'll jump into my hot take. And I've experienced this recently. So every experience that I've ever had with MyGov has just been a big old steaming pile of shit. You got to link like 40 accounts to your MyGov, but none of them work. And I called up. I got Janine. She's 87. She's in the call center. You're like, hey, Janine, I want to just go outside and live a life. Can I link up my vaccine passport? She's like, oh, it's just our system, doll. It just does, whatever it wants. And you're like, cool story, but you do force millions of people to use this system, and if they don't, they can't go and live a life. So fix your shit. It's like link your ATO to the thing, put in all my information. It's like nah, bro, this isn't the right information. You're like, well, it is because it's been my super fund for the past 13 years. I don't have another one, so that has to be it. And they're like, nah, bro, you better call our call center. I was like, fucking hello, Janine.
Oh, here we go.
It's like,
Hello, Janine again.
yeah, need to link my shit. And she's like, oh, doll, you're back again. Yeah, it's just the system. If you tried turning it off and on again, you're like, oh, nah, I didn't. Just thought that the, multi-million-dollar system would like work once ever. And it's like, nah. So you just get to do that loop over and over and over. But the best part about it is they don't give you an option. There's no other option. Like, I just want to give the government money, please. And
More
they're
money.
like, they're like, oh, you just want to give us money? No, it's got to be hard.
You have to give us time too.
Yeah.
You got to give us time too with your money.
Yeah. You got to spend like 2 hours on the phone. You got to jump through like hoops to give us money. What, you just want to give us money? No, we'll make it difficult for you. So, yeah, my hot take, and I don't even think it's a hot take. I think everyone will agree, but MyGov is arse. It's just arse.
I'm just waiting for the day that MyGov turns into Optus and has this whole whole thing where everyone's stuff goes public. I got an email the other day saying my information was released from Optus from like 10 years ago. Whenever I first came here, I was with Optus for like a year. Now, obviously with Telstra, big fan of Telstra, big ambassador. But at least, I'm waiting for that day that, that MyGov kind of has the 18-year-old that hacks into their system and releases everyone's Medicare information.
I think everyone's waiting for that day. I have zero belief. I have zero faith in any government online anything. But it's good because you get forced into it, so you have no choice. So we're just all on the roller coaster together. We're all in the same boat.
Well, speaking about being in the same boat, mate, we're going to go into the greatest part of every podcast. It is the water cooler chat. I know everyone's been hyped up about what we're going to talk about. What can I go to work with and say, I want to bring this little snippet, little tidbit up to you, and I'm going to let you fulfill the rest of this story. And that's what we're here for. We're here for weird, wacky stories.
We get the ball rolling. You got to do a little bit on your end. Like, come on, we're giving you convo starters. So don't rely on us to do the whole thing, but we'll get the ball rolling for you.
Don't rely on me to be 100% factual on any of these things, but you know what? This is a great conversation starter, and that's the important thing. We're all here for a good story. Now, there's something massive happening here, and it's unfortunate. It's a little bit negative, but you know what? We've got to know this because these are the important things in life, right? The important things in life are divorces, and Tom Brady and Giselle are talking about getting a divorce, and it's absolutely killing me because I am sitting here as a professional athlete hoping that I'm going to be able to marry a model one day and live a beautiful life. And Tom is screwing this idea up for me. I don't appreciate it one bit, Tom. And Giselle, I'm not sure what the issue is. I know it's probably Tom not being able to retire and Tom just keep coming back from retirement, dominating the NFL as he does at 50 years old. Now, I understand. You can be upset. Don't get me wrong. But come on. Like, what can we work through this? Can we just figure it out? You're a power couple. I need power couples in my life, The entertainment world needs Giselle and Tom to stick together. But unfortunately, they both, I think, hired divorce lawyers. Brady's seen it. He was seen at the Robert Kraft wedding by himself. That's never a good sign if you're at the wedding by yourself.
That's
you're married.
Not great.
It's never a good sign. Never a good sign, Tom.
That's not good.
Yeah, and she's just apparently she's not happy with his decision to come back out of retirement. Because Brady essentially retired and then said, nah, I've spent about a month at home and they're doing my head in, so I'm going to go back to work. So, yeah, it's a tough time out there. But Tom, Giselle, prayers up.
Prayers
up for your
I can
life.
actually,
prayers up.
He's doing all right because he's laughing all the way to the bank. If they do break up, she's worth more than him, apparently. So
she is worth more, yeah.
So poor Tom, right?
There's a few NFL wives and stuff that have had a divorce and have been more wealthier than the actual professional athlete because they've been able to leverage the position they're in. So Giselle actually might be paying Tom Brady out for a divorce, which would be a pretty wild scenario. I mean, she's made her own money in her own right, don't get me wrong, but it is kind of funny because Tom's known to be one of his best professional athletes ever, and he might actually be getting money from her, which is kind of crazy.
Now, I know Tom Brady's probably had a few offers, but hear me out. Giselle, I'm on Hinge, I'm on Bumble, I'm on Tinder. If you do sign up, just keep an eye out. I am single. Good bloke, funny, sense of humor, mustache.
Great guy.
Good accent,
Great podcast.
Australia. G'day, Giselle. See, I can thicken it up. Oh, crikey. G'day, Giselle. Well, you come over here and wrestle a few crocs, why don't you?
Swooning over that accent, no doubt. I think you're slide into the DMs. I'm sure she'll get back to you. She'll be here in a jiffy, and who knows what will happen, mate. Now, over the weekend, obviously, NCAA football, massive sporting news. Now, NCAA football, we put up a post about this. There's a pony that is the mascot of Southern Methodist University, right? SMU. And SMU was playing, I think, Navy at the time over the weekend, and something happened, right? So this horse/pony, miniature horse, maybe, I don't know what you want to call it. Every time they score a touchdown, which is, we go in the end zone, people dance, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we got
the horse goes and sprints across the field, right? So SMU scores a touchdown. They're going, woo, yeah, all right, let's go. And then this pony goes the Pony Express across the field. And unfortunately, as you can't really predict these things, the pony goes number 2 as it's running in the middle of the field.
I mean,
so what happens, Brayden?
Of course it does.
What do you do? I mean, it's sprayed just shit everywhere. And I mean that in the most literal of terms. It is sprayed shit everywhere. And it's on the field, and players are still got to finish the game. So what do? You go into a bit of a timeout, essentially, for a TV timeout so they can clean up the shit from the actual field. So, yes, they had to go get the horse people to go out and with cups and scoop up all the different little trails that this pony had left throughout the field as it celebrated. And the game essentially stopped for about 2 or 3 minutes while they had to clean it up, man. It was a pretty shitty situation, you could say.
Gags. Who gets that job? The shit cleanup guy.
It wasn't just one solid one, man. It was pieces everywhere. It was a decent cleanup, I must say, on aisle 5.
Anyway, let's wind up this sadness and jump straight into the highly credible, well-researched news segment that I run. And I don't.
Yes.
I've kept this separate from you. I haven't shown you, so you don't know what's coming up. So I do want to play something off the top, and I want to get your thoughts on what you think it could be. So have a listen. All right, I'm going to fade that one out there. Any thoughts on...
That's about 5 seconds too long, Brayden. That's what I think. No. I've got no idea what that is, man. It sounds... At first, I thought it was a cruise ship horn, and then I think it turned into maybe a bit of a... some kind of instrument someone's playing. I'm not really sure the background to it, but...
I'll give you
fill me in. What are we listening to?
I'll give you the headline. Man plays saxophone while doctors perform awake brain surgery on him.
Oh, wow. I've seen these before.
Also known as an intraoperative brain mapping and awake craniotomy, aids neurosurgeons in removing tumors that are deemed inoperable. So awake brain surgeries are performed on tumors that have spread across the brain and do not present clear boundaries. Such tumors undergo significant shrinkage following the surgery. So the surgery lasts 9 hours, and he played the saxophone the entire time.
Wow.
And it's said that he is recovering well.
It's crazy. They can sit there and literally. Oh, geez.
What are you doing over there?
Oh, just cramped in my leg. Oh, wowza.
This is going well.
I can't make this up. Oh, I just cramped from running water in the USAFL. Oh, how good is that? Oh my gosh, that was wild. Okay,
I thought you were giving us an example of someone getting surgery done. That's crazy.
Oh, I can't believe that just happened. Anyway, sorry, I'll go back to that. I've seen these before now. It's pretty cool. They do a violin every once in a while. They'll have someone talk during this operation, and they can sit there and poke on one point of the brain, and then they just go absolute blank. They don't know how to speak, or they can't play the tune they were playing, or whatever it is. And it's so interesting that we know the brain so well to be able to sit there, pinpoint something to say, this is the one kind of nerve that connects your ability through your brain and your arms and your limbs to be able to play music and things like that. it's phenomenal. Like if people haven't seen it, it's actually really cool. There's people that will play violins. Those people that like literally will talk in different languages to each other, to the surgeons while they're actually doing it and operating on the brain. It's phenomenal what we can do from the medical sense nowadays.
I've moved Florida Man to second because the last one is insane. So that's a little preview for the next one coming up.
That's a little carrot, isn't it?
But I don't know if you know where Crestview is, but Crestview Man has a 9-year-old drive him 7 miles home. You know, seems pretty innocent enough. A witness suspected that the driver was impaired due to the vehicle being all over the roadway. So the witness then cut off the car before noticing that it was actually a child behind the wheel. The 9-year-old told deputies that Irios, which is the 22-year-old, asked him to drive him home. They say that the 9-year-old then began driving back to his house alone. He traveled 3 miles back to his house before he got pulled over. The mother told deputies that Irios, the 22-year-old, was at her house the night before drinking alcohol and stayed the night. So he's gone, I've had a few too much. Mate, you reckon you could drive me home? So he's done the responsible thing. He's got the
9-year-old.
He's got the Desi driver, but unfortunately the Desi driver was 9 years old and he was intercepted. So they were this close.
Picturing a 9-year-old like sitting on phone book stacks with like, you know, a block for the pedal, pushing the pedal down to be able to drive this car, and his hands are like literally stretched as far apart, grabbing both ends of the steering wheel and just driving like a clown.
So this is it. This is the big one. This is already instant classic before we even start. Woman scammed by Russian astronaut who claimed he needed money to return to Earth.
Russian space center went down recently, so it's a possibility.
The man claimed he needed money to pay for landing fees once on Earth and the rocket to fly home. So he had to buy a rocket, and then you got to pay the landing fees. You can't just land.
You can't just land anywhere. You got to pay for the parking.
You got to pay landing fees. Not everyone can just crash her out in the ocean. A man claiming to be a Russian astronaut in space allegedly scammed a Japanese woman into paying his return trip to Earth, vowing to marry her once he landed. So on his profile, he uploaded a whole bunch of random photos from space and said he worked at the International Space Station, where astronauts have limited access to cell service. So, you know, he couldn't just message her all the time. You don't get the 4 or 5G up there. Their relationship quickly escalated. He proposed, but said, to tie the knot, I got to land back on Earth. So, believing the man would be her future fiancé, the woman paid him about 4.4 million yen, which is about 30,000 US, in five installments. But the old Russian astronaut didn't just, take the win, take the easy dub. He demanded more from her. She, got a bit suspicious, reported him to the police. And now they're after this Russian astronaut. So I don't know how they're going to catch him. Like, one, they got to get a rocket. Two, they got to get up there. They got to play the landing fees on their end. It's a whole thing. So
this is essentially the Space Force's, Tinder swindler is essentially what this guy is. And it's I can't imagine this lady who has $30,000 is that, gullible to actually believe that someone, needs to pull up a Paystay app to be able to make sure they can park their, their Space Force jet to get down there to make sure that they get to Earth safely. But
the only thing that I can think of that would be just the last little twist in this is the police investigate it and it's true. Like, he's still up in space trying to figure out the parking arrangements. And he's like, he's going,
is it Paystay or is it that new Easy app? I can't figure it out.
He can't download the app because, as he said, there's limited cell phone service up in, space. And he's still waiting for his banking app, but he comes back. And then he's a bit miffed that she even questioned him. And then it turns into a full, spat. And then Giselle finds out. And she ends up getting married with the Russian astronaut, and it's a full thing.
Brayden, we must move on because there's also many things we need to catch up on. And everyone's favorite segment, we have a lot of female listeners, and I feel like a lot of male listeners get a lot out of this too, mate. And it's the dating life. The dating life, mate. Now, I've been told by you that we have a bit of a submission. Is that correct?
We do. We do have a fan submission this week, and it's a real, up and down affair. I won't say any more because I don't want to spoil it, but let's just jump straight into our fan submission.
G'day, Cocky and Cockzilla. Hope you lads are both well. Got a bit of a story for you. It's a bit of an awkward moment, bad day, but not really because it's actually a really, really good day. So anyway, basically I was talking to this girl for ages, really, really liked her, so I took her out one day and had this great plan. I took her to the beach, we had a picnic, sorted it out, it was super good. Just didn't have a picnic basket, so she supplied it, which was still killer. Got some nice, like a cheese board. Like I was feeling fancy. Like I was head over heels. I was keen on this. Anyway, we go, the date's great. We watch the sunset. It's really, really nice. Then I go to drop her home because I picked her up, being the gentleman I am. And as I'm dropping her home, we get to her house and like we're on the way up and dude, I've just really, really got to fart. Like I know that sounds so bad, but the entire drive, I'm just like thinking, I can't let this go here. I cannot. So anyway, we finally get to her house. I'm like, oh my God, thank God. I get out, I do the courteous thing. I go over to her side, I open the door for her. And then I go and I open the boot to go to the basket. She's standing there waiting. I open the boot. It's all fine. Then I go to shut the boot and, like my car's a little bit old and had to overexert. And as I slammed the car door down, I just let out the biggest fart of my life, boys. It was so bad. I can't even describe it. And we both just look at each other and we both knew. And we just had that like quick glance at each other and then looked away. And I was so embarrassed. Like I dropped her off then the whole way home. I'm just like head in hands. It was like a long drive, but worked out. We've been dating for 2 years. So fart on.
So fart on.
Wow. Fart on. Hey, that's how you know she's a cool chick. If she just rolls with it and just laughs and you move on and like it's no big deal, hey, that's an absolute keeper.
100% blame the car straight away, no doubt in my mind.
Oh, no doubt. I would have done that instantly. Be like, oh, this old piece of shit. And just like throw the thing. Be like, I would have tried to create that same noise again somehow to be able to play it off as if it was the car, you know?
That's what you always
kick your car or something like that. Be like, oh, it must have been the muffler. I don't know what that is.
Suspension creaks, this old thing. And if she's still cool, she like lets you get away with that full well knowing that you're lying. That's a good sign, a green flag.
We'll move into the last segment, mate. We've got the footy chat.
Jump back into this. So the USAFL, we touched on it briefly at the top of the podcast, but so what's the deal? You were at a tournament today, so the whole thing's played over the span of a day, or how's this thing work?
So the tournament's played over 2 days. Both brothers are playing it. So there's men's, women's divisions. There's everything here. And yeah, they play 2 games the first day. And then depending on how they go on the first day and the second day, they kind of have different pools for the tournament. Depending on how they go, they can play 4 games if they get to the grand final. And then they'll be crowned a winner at the end of the thing. So there's a lot of games over the weekend. There's plenty of grounds and stuff. It's really good fun. Everyone out here just having a blast, learning more about the game and becoming a bit of a family over here because everyone's just vibing on AFL in America, and it's a very unique thing. So you got people fly from – we're in LA at the moment. We've got people flying from New York. We got people flying from Florida and Seattle and up in Canada and all over the U.S. And everyone's flown in for this weekend just to be able to play footy together.
Tell us, how did the family go? 2 brothers, which one's the best?
The Nolan's team won the national championship in Division 1, which is a massive deal. So they've actually won, I think, either the last 4 or 5 national championships. So they've been absolutely smashing it. They're the Austin Crows. So if I ever wear Crows gear, it's the Austin Crows, not the Adelaide Crows. Don't throw shade at me, please, everyone. But represent the Austin Crows. But the other brother also plays with Seattle Grizzlies. They tied 1, lost 2, unfortunately. But they have actually, like I said before, they've grown a lot in the last 2 years. They played really well, and they've become a lot better in their skills and just kind of movement of the ball and everything else, where it looks like a proper game of AFL now. So both brothers played. Nolan won the national championship. He got to drink out of the cup. They got this massive cup they win, and everyone pours beer into it and drinks out of it, and it's a whole circle thing, and it's good fun, man. And there's gonna be a lot of videos coming out in the next week or so about it, but. They've been dominating the Austin Crows, and on the women's side, the Iron Maidens, which is the San Francisco team. They've been absolutely dominating over in the AFLW on that side of it. So 2 powerhouses at the moment that are waiting to be knocked off. But this year it goes to the Crows and the Iron Maidens. He's
starting to get a little jealous. The gap is getting bigger between you and Nolan. He just keeps getting another cup to the trophy cabinet. The cabinet at home is going to be full of all Nolan's medals and trophies.
He keeps telling me I'm the only brother that hasn't won a grand final, which is true. But it's kind of crazy, man, because like he came over here, and obviously we've had him on the podcast. He's one of our previous Nolan. It is. I've got 2 brothers here, but Nolan has been on the podcast check it out. It's a great chat about my life and his involvement and everything that kind of happened and got me through the AFL. It's in the storied archives, but it was just kind of awesome to see him get into it. He's now one of the best players in the league and plays ruck also, and he's won best on ground a few times and MVP of the tournament a few times and things like that. So he's definitely making a statement over here. He's entirely too old to be playing the AFL. A lot of people ask me that, is your brother going to come over here now? Blah, blah, blah. I don't want to say his age, but he's old enough to not be in the AFL. That's for sure. But no, it's awesome to have them involved. Mom and dad fly up here, and be able to see the two brothers all in the same place, and it's become a bit of a family reunion every year.
We just went through the trade period, everyone's favorite time of year, especially the players. They love it. No anxiety, no nothing. Your thoughts on the trade period, because you got a fair few new teammates. You clearly lost one. You lost a couple, but you lost one that's very near and dear to you in Brodie Grundy. You've been on this journey for pretty much the entire time, and you're like in a similar role, but the way that you guys, I saw it firsthand, connected over the journey, and starting with like the Falls Creek experience, kind of going head to head, and you're driving standards between each other. It was really, it was impressive to watch at times. And Brodie had this just, pre-season, he would go insanely hard. Like there's never going to be a question around him and the effort that he puts in and his pre-seasons, because it was like insane. And just to see like you two kind of drive each other with that, that energy and that work rate, like you only made each other better. But I can imagine that kind of solidified like a friendship between you two guys. Have you spoken to Brodie, or have you reached out, or you've been overseas, so I imagine it's hard, but like what's that process been like just watching from afar?
Yeah, I kind of knew it was going to happen beforehand. So Brodie and myself obviously are very close, and we kind of had a conversation, I guess, a little bit before it came out. And yeah, it's just tough. Like, at the end of the day, there's got to be decisions made, I guess, from a club standpoint to try to put them in the best possible scenario. But whenever it comes to these things, you make these amazing friendships with guys over the years, and Brodie's definitely one of those. I'll value at a very, very high level, and has, like you mentioned, pushed me to be a better player, not only on the field but off the field. And he's done some pretty amazing things. He's a great human, great motivator, and a guy that will be missed at the club. He's someone that you always kind of think, he's always going to be there, and have all these experiences with people. But everyone, including myself, we all have a finite time in this league, and unfortunately things kind of don't always go to plan. But Brodie's, he's an amazing person. I think he's handled it quite well. He could have gone the other way and been really filthy and everything else. He's been really, really kind to everyone through the whole process, and has been really a stand-up person. So credit goes to him. And yeah, he'll definitely be missed from my side. I always love competing against him. Whenever you get to compete against some of the best ruckmen in the league, and Brodie was one of those. And it's tough now to be able to see him go. And we just have to kind of step that up from our perspective. I guess myself and Darcy Cameron. Now we've got Dan McStay there, and Aiden Begg and Baz Rufai, the other fella. So we'll kind of have to drive that standard now. But it is tough to see him go. He's a person that's been a staple around the club for a long time, and someone I've highly respected. And I know you've had your experiences with him also, and he's always been so kind to everyone, not only just in the footy side, but also the admin side and everything else. And he's just a stand-up human. But whenever I kind of found out, we kind of sat down and kind of, I said, I understand these things have been out there, and I thought that might be the case. But kind of said, I stepped back, and I always try to think, what's life going to be like in 10 years, in 15 years time, And I said, in 15 years time, we'll have a laugh about this whole thing over a beer and talk about how crazy life is, and the whole kind of circumstance that led us in the path that we end up at the moment. So yeah, it's a sad thing to see him go. Totally understand from the club standpoint. I think Brodie understands too, along with Melbourne. But as a friend and someone who's somewhat been a mentor of mine over the years, it's gonna be a bit different with not having him around, and definitely gonna miss him. But luckily, he's just gonna be across the street, so I'm sure we'll still catch up and have a few lunches and dinners and whatnot along the years.
That is a benefit that he's just there. I imagine that it's
he's literally walked like 100 meters.
It's going to be
He doesn't have to change his car park pass.
Yeah, true. It's going to be crazy coming up against him for the first time, and all those little things. And it's not like you haven't experienced that before. Adam Treloar was, the obvious one, loved Collingwood, and, it obviously pained him to go. And then kind of it feels like this is almost the same or even bigger. Like those two guys, they're going to take with them so much like culture. Is there moments just along the journey that it clicks and you go like, okay, it's a business?
It's an interesting time in the IFL because you're thinking it in the moment, right? There's this old school kind of thinking of like, you owe the club everything and, you're going to be at the same club your whole career and all this kind of stuff. And this is this old school mentality that was this situation a lot of times for a lot of players. But in today's world, like players getting traded left, right, and center, but moving states, all this stuff's happening because there's more money in the actual league. And I think the more money that comes into the league, the more it becomes a business, the more there's not this kind of like connection, a sense of owing clubs as much. And, players don't feel like they owe them and clubs don't feel like they owe players. And there's a bit more of like a distance in that sense, which is, it's sad, but it is the fact of the matter. Whenever things become more financially stable, there's more money in it and there's more money to drag you away from things. And, same thing from both sides of the spectrum, whether it be the players or be the clubs, like these things do happen. And the IFL is it's over $1 billion. It's worth over $1 billion. And you can't say that something that's worth over $1 billion isn't going to make business decisions whenever it's got that much money and based on money. Like that's just not going to happen. And I think it's this unique time where these older generation has this idea, this dream that, like, no, it's okay. Like, you're always going to play for the same club. And so it's going to be like that. But I think this newer generation is realizing that the chances of you playing for a club for your whole life is probably going to be pretty rare in 5 to 10 years. I don't think that's going to happen very often. And it's going to be a unique scenario where I think this idea of playing for a club for your whole career is going to be, it's not going to happen very often. And the more money that comes into the league, the more that's going to happen where people are going to get traded and jump around and want to go home or want to make more money somewhere else or wherever it is, whenever there's a salary cap. And that's just the fact of the matter. And it's nothing against a club and it's nothing against, a player. And I understand from this situation with Brody and Collingwood, like both of them probably understand it. Like, we went on an 11-game winning streak whenever Brody got injured. And it's like, well, if we could continue that and then not have the money on the cap, then it's like, okay, well, like it is a business. And it's like, well, if we could bring in McStay and, Mitchell and Hill and Frampton and all these other guys, then the club's definitely going to look at that. And that's what essentially happened. And you can't blame either party. Like it sucks. It's not a great situation anyone wants to be in, but it's the fact of the matter. And unfortunately, there's enough money in this game that we can have a proper lifestyle and be able to have this as a full-time job. But the other side of the spectrum is that some of these business decisions are going to get made to be able to try to put the club in the best, position going forward. It's
one of those, like, you win some, you lose some, like, for every Brodie Grundy that was out there or Adam Treloar, there's a McStay, a Mitchell, a Hill and a Frampton that got to the club that they wanted to get to, and it worked in their favour. And saying that, we have mentioned their names quite a few times, McStay, Mitchell, Hill and Frampton. You do have a few more teammates. Are you excited to see some of those boys at the club? I hope you say yes, because if you say no...
Look, I'm going to miss Brody. Don't get me wrong. I want to preface this. I'm going to miss Brody because I love the man. He's an amazing human. But it is great to get some new faces into the club every year. You come back from the off season, you have these people that come in and you get to know them a lot better and you become friends with them and everything else. And Tom Mitchell, I've known for a while. Whenever I found out the news, I texted him right away. He was actually in Austin hanging out with one of my brother's friends at his house, I think. So there's a few people like Sean Darcy, Tom Mitchell had rolled through and trained with the Austin Crows, the USAFL team. So there's a bit of a connection there in that sense. And he's been traveling all over the U.S. So it would be great to have him in the middle, man. Hopefully we're tapping to that fella. He's won a Brownlow and he's got quite a bit of skills and everything else. So he's I think he'll be a great addition to the team. We're really excited to have him on board. Just a time check over there in the US. What are you on? Time check. It is currently 3:36 in the morning.
Your boots on the ground. We need some clips from over there.
I'm going to Monday Night Football at SoFi Stadium. I'll chunk some of that up on the gram.
That's what you got. You got to go to the thing in the car park. You got to go to the car park thing.
Tailgate.
Yeah. Go to a tailgate. Right. Get us some vision.
I'm gonna go find a tailgate. Get some vision. Maybe do a little shotgun. I don't know if you guys know what a shotgun is.
Do that.
Yes. The big boy shotgun and a beer over there at a tailgate.
A keg stand, world's largest keg stand.
You're pushing it, Brayden.
So you can write off this
days anymore.
You can write off this whole trip as you're doing a recce for doing a recce for our big event that's coming up from whenever we start doing tailgates in Australia. That's going to be big. You wrap us up all the way from Ontario.
Oh. All the way from Ontario, California, everyone. Thank you for listening to the Mason Cox Show. Like I said, like, subscribe, comment, tell us all your stories, and leave us a voicemail. We love a voicemail. And next week, we've got another interview I won't release who it is yet because it's going to be a great one. I'm telling you, it's going to be a big one. And we've got some massive news about the podcast coming up in the next month that we'll have to release too. We're excited. It's an exciting time for the podcast, so get around it. This thing's going to blow up. I'm telling you, it's going to be good fun. And we're going to have a great time along the way. So join us. Thanks for listening, and listen to us next time. And if you get times, go check back at some of the old episodes. I'm telling you, some of the old episodes are great. Some of the old people we've interviewed are awesome interviews, so check them out. Peace.